Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to another lecture for P4 Practical of Computer Science 9618. Okay, so in our last class, we basically discussed a few basics of Python and we discussed till how to create arrays and how to make procedures and functions. Now let's continue on ahead and in today's class we are going to start from searching algorithms. So as you know very well, in chapter number 19 we have had two types of searching algorithms so far. One was a linear search and the other one was binary search. So first of all, let's take a look at the code for linear search. If you are given an array, then first of all you are going to ask the user to enter a number or a name that you want to find in the array, and after that in Python, remember that we will whether we are searching something using binary search, using linear search, or we are sorting something using bubble sort or insertion sort, we'll always make a function for that. This is the code for a linear search algorithm or function. First of all, we are going to define our function. Over here I defined it by the name of linear underscore search. You can just make it as search and that's it, doesn't really matter. You are going to provide it two things. One would be the name of your array as a parameter, and over here you don't need to write the square bracket, just writing the name is enough. The second thing is the parameter of search or item that will hold the value which you want your algorithm, which you want your code to search in the array. So first of all, as you know, Python arrays start from 0 index number. So we will make index at 0. Instead of index, you can just take it as I, or you can make it as count as well, doesn't really matter. Then we are going to use a conditional while loop. Why? Because we don't know the number user has entered will actually be found in this array or not, and if yes, then at what position. So while index is less than length of my list, which is my array, this basically means as long as you have not reached the end of the list, or we should write another condition, or we can like if you want, we can write another condition, found equals to false, and you can then what you are going to do, you are going to run a simple if statement that if my list index is equal to item, then you return index and found becomes true, else index plus equal to 1. This is equal to index plus 1. These both lines are equal. In Python, plus equal to 1 is a shortcut for adding 1 or subtracting 1. For that you can use minus equal to. This is a shortcut. Instead of writing this whole statement, you can simply write plus equal to 1. Otherwise, if the while loop fails, if it works and you are able to find a match, then you would return the value of index, and if it fails, you are going to return minus 1. Now one of you might say that okay, this return happens inside the while loop, and what if the while loop finds the element and it returns index, and then will it return minus 1 again? No. See, you over here you are forgetting a basic thing about functions. A function can only return one value, not multiple values. So if Python will not run this line if you have already returned something over here, then you can simply run the function and store the result somewhere in a variable, like for example the name of result. Will provide my list and item as parameters. Now if for a normal search this much is fine, if you want to display a proper result, then you can give a message like element found at index this, else print element not found in the list. Now let's run this code. I've already written it, so I'll just copy paste it. So this is my Visual Studio. As you can see, this is the file I created last time, and I can just click on it and it will open the file from the last time, or I could have created a new file as well. We don't need all this, so I'm going to clear it, and I'm going to write a comment just in case: test run for linear search code, and I'm going to paste this thing. So always remember, when you're writing a condition, if you use single equal to, your Python will take that as assignment operator and it will be confused, like it's giving me an error. Whenever you're comparing something, always make sure that you use double equal to. Whether you're writing an if statement, you're writing a while condition, or anywhere else. So everything is good to go. Now some of you might be wondering, what is the use of this F? This F is for formatting, and this simplifies our result. For example, let me try to comment it and write it simply: element comma, or let's just say value comma item comma found at index number comma result. This is how we write proper message in pseudocode, right? So let's first of all, let's try that, and then let's try to see what happens when we do it with this F keyword. I want to show you something. Again, this is not an explicit part of the syllabus, so it's okay if you just skip ahead and don't learn this. Okay, let's just run this. Please enter number to be found. What is happening over here? I'm taking an input over here, then I'll supply it. So that means till here our code is fine. I'm going to supply it a random number. Let's say I'm going to supply it 8. Now when I press enter, it says value 8 found at index number 2. Okay, and it is correct. 8 is over here. So it works. Now I'm going to reiterate it. Now I say minus 12. Now it says a problem: list index out of range. Why? Because of a little problem I wrote, or over here I should have written and, because right now it is ignoring this condition and it is going ahead, like it has reached the end of the array. What basically happened, it started at 0, then 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and once it reached 9 it did not found anything. So found was still false, the value of found did not become true. So because I had written or over here, it only considered this part of the condition to be true. It ignored this part and tried to test the next element in this array, but there was no next element. That's why it gave this error. Now remember that in this video, or how many ever videos for P4 I'll be making, I'll try to make mistakes. I'll not try to turn off recording and correct them and show you a perfect version of code, because obviously when you're sitting in the examination hall right now, I'm not trying to be a teacher, I'm trying to be a student. Okay, so obviously when you're under the pressure of examination hall, when you're sitting in that scenario, you are going to mess up. If every time I'll show you a perfect running and perfect version of the code, you will become overconfident, or you would not know what to do if some error happens. So over here the error happened, and what I figured that found, since I did not find a matching value in the array, found still remained false. So after this element, my loop tried to compare the next element, but there is no next element, there is no 10th place in the array, so it gave me an error. So what I am going to do, I'll say that ignore this always happens, don't worry about it. I'll change or to and. Now again, we cannot write it in capital, we have to write it in small letters. Okay, so now this means if either your length, your index becomes the last element in the array, or either found is not equal to false, you'll stop. You can, instead of this, you can write it like this as well. Found is not equal to true. This is the symbol for not equal to, exclamation mark and equal to. This is also fine. Now let's see what would happen if I enter -12 again. Value -12 not found. Okay, now what would happen if now let's uncomment it and see what happens. Why I deliberately use this F. This F is, you can simply say that this is used for formatting, and this is a placeholder. Now why have I written it like this? Just to be on the safe side. I've had like this, some of my students previously have had this trouble that when they tried to print this, their IDE showed error, or their IDE was not able to print this line perfectly. Hence you can use this format keyword in order to, let's say, 8. See, if you try to do things normally but it doesn't work with the help of a simple print statement, so you can use this. You can use this F keyword, F for format, and then instead of variable names you can use curly brackets as placeholder. This will always run. This sometimes may not run. The student I'm talking about specifically had a MacBook and he was running Visual Studio community version on his MacBook, and his IDE had a lot of trouble. So I'm just telling you this as a precaution. If the computer you're given during exams, or the laptop or computer you have right now for practice, is unable to run this simple line, then you can use this format and it will always run. If your machine works fine, then it's up to you. Okay. Next, what we are going to do, we are going to discuss binary search. Now, how binary search works, you know very well. For binary search, we need two things. The first thing is the upper bound, and the next thing is the lower bound of the array. And usually, it can be written as low or high as well. Then, first of all, what you are going to do while low is less than or equal to high. Because if both of them, upper and lower bound, becomes equal, then that's the condition for stopping the search, because that means you did not find the value. First of all, you calculate the mid value by adding low plus high and then divide them by 2. In pseudocode, we usually use the int function. Over here in Python, we already have double division or double /, so we don't need to separately apply int function on it. Then what we do, on the middle of the list, whatever is the value in the array, we compare it with our item. If they both are same, you return mid, like the index value. Elif, you check whether it is less than the item. If it is less than item, then you have to move towards the right hand side of the mid position, else you'll have to move to the left hand side of the middle position. How you do that? You make low equals to mid plus 1, or you do make high equals to mid minus 1. This logic is absolutely same as what happens in pseudocode. There's no difference. And if this entire while loop fails, what you are going to do, you are just going to return -1. That means target not found. Again, I am going to use the result variable to store the returning index number, and then if it is not equal to -1, I'll print that okay, value found at so and so index number. Again, I'm using F because, like I said, one of my students really had a lot of trouble with displaying normal condition, normal print statement somehow. So this format thing worked great for him. If you otherwise you can just print simple statements as well. Otherwise not found in the you can just print not found in the list. So I'm going to be using the same array. I'm just going to change this thing. Okay, now I've replaced linear search with binary search. Again, you can name it anything. Always remember, if you have to use an array in a function, you will always supply it as a parameter to that function. It's kind of a general rule of thumb, remember that. So let's try to search something with the help of binary search. Okay, what they say, length. Okay, length my list, there is some. Okay. So this is probably a hyphen because of the yeah, this is a hyphen, this is not a minus sign, so Python cannot recognize it. Let me change that. This happened because I copy pasted from PowerPoint, like sometime a minus can, this is a minus, a normal minus, and this is a, and but this is not a minus, this is a hyphen. So that's why. Anyways, let's run our code again. Hopefully this time everything works fine. What it says, okay, mid -1 is again having the same problem. Okay. Return -1. Let me fix all the instances, and this should work just fine. See, now it works. So that is the first rule of debugging. Remain calm, and well, I can make up a lot of jokes over here. You might have seen a lot of stuff, a lot of memes about remain calm and Bankai and whatnot. So just don't erupt. Don't panic. Stay calm. Take a deep breath and try to look for what's causing the error instead of breaking down. Okay? Otherwise, you are going to lose your precious time and your precious marks. So don't lose hope. Remain calm and try to look for the error. Try to look for the fault. Okay, let me try to search for a 5. Element found 5 not found in the list. Now let me try with 8 again, or let's say let me try 34. Found at index 8. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. Now if you want, you can simply learn this entire thing. No issues from my side. That's one way of doing things. Okay, you can learn this code, or you can just practice it at your end. Pause the video over here, type it in your ID, and try to learn it to the best of type it in your ID and practice. Okay, now let's move on to our next thing. Next we have the sorting algorithms. Now how do you bubble sort in Python in pseudocode? In pseudocode, what we do, if we want to run a bubble sort, we usually run, first of all we start a repeat loop, and inside it we run a for loop. If you remember that, like that's basic stuff. In Python, for running a bubble sort, what we do, since we don't have a repeat loop, we run 2 for loops inside each other. Again, we'll make a function about it, and we'll provide the array as a parameter to it. Then n is equal to length of my list. N is like the last index number of your array. For I in range n, like start from 0 obviously, and go till whatever is the value stored in n. So if n is let's say 10, so this means run the loop till 10, which actually means, like I told you in my previous video, the loop will run till from 0 till 9. And as you know very well from pseudocode, that in bubble sort we are supposed to run the loop one less number of times than the total number of elements in the array. Like if there are 4 elements, then we run it from 1 to 3, because every element has to be compared with its next element. So anyways, I'll change it back to n. Then we run a second for loop inside it for j in range, and this time we say start from O do n minus I minus 1. What it means that n is the total number of elements in your array, n minus I is the number of iteration for this loop. So for the first iteration it will be n minus 1, for the second it will be n minus 2, n minus 3, and so on. So every time will basically be kind of skipping from this side. Is we won't really be like every time this increases, the number of times the inner loop runs will decrease. So every time this value of I increases, or the outer loop, the more the outer loop runs, the less number of times this inner loop will run. Then it's a simple if statement that if current value in the list, like at j position, is greater than the value at j plus 1, like the next element, then what you do, my list j comma my list j plus 1 will be equal to my list j plus 1 and my list j. This is something that we discussed in previous previous lecture as well, that you can assign multiple values in multiple variables together without needing an intermediate or a temporary variable. So this is what we are doing. By changing the order of it, the value in my list j plus 1 will be stored in my list j, and whatever was at my list j will be stored in the next position. So they both will be swapped. Now if you want, you can absolutely add a swapped variable over here, swapped equals to true, and then you can if you're using a while, if you plan to replace one of these with a while loop, you can do that, and then you can write it as a condition in that while loop that stop when swap equals to false or something. But this is a more efficient and much faster way of doing a bubble sort in Python. So let's run it in the IDE and see if we are doing things correctly or not. I'll just remove everything and let's run it. Okay, first of all, I'm going to, this will be the unsorted array, and then after it will be the sorted array. So let's run and check. And print unsorted array. Okay, I forgot a comma, I guess, my mistake. See, this type of things can happen, so always be careful about it. No worries, it happens. See, this is your unsorted array and this is your sorted array. This is basically an oversimplified version of bubble sort, and it is definitely acceptable by Cambridge Examiner, unless and until Cambridge Examiner gives you a written logic using pseudocode and asks you to convert it into Python code or programming code. In that sense, you'll have to follow the steps mentioned over there as much as you can. Then we have the insertion sort. Okay, so as if you remember, in insertion sort, first of all, we are going to make a top variable. Top basically means the upper bound of the array, and how we calculate top by using the length function on our array. Swap will become true, upper bound will be 9 and lower bound will be 0. Instead of top you can take high as well, doesn't really matter. Now the code for it is simple. While we are going to start with a while loop that as long as top is greater than 0 and swap is true. So what we are going to do, we are going to store false in swap, and then what we are going to do, okay, then upper bound will be the last value, lower bound will be 0. Now you may have noticed that this is rather a long code. Okay, now this would happen to you if you are given, if the examiner gives you a pseudocode and asks you to convert it as it is into programming code. Now this, I can understand this would most likely be very difficult for you to learn or understand or even remember, so we can leave it over here and I can show you a simplified version of for a insertion sort. So first of all, n will be the length of my list. Then what we are going to do, we are going to run a for loop for index in range 1 to n. Why we are running it from 1? If you remember, in insertion sort we always start our loop from the second position in the array. Key will become my list index. Whatever is the value at current position will be stored in key, and place will become index -1. We kind of just straight off copied this from the pseudocode. Then we'll run a while loop that while place is greater than equal to 0 and my list place is greater than key. Then what you are going to do, my list place plus 1 will become my list place, like you are going to swap these two elements. Place will become place -1 and my list place plus 1 will become key, and then you can output the sorted array. Let's try it out. So this is our unsorted array 2, 4, 8, 17, 9, 3. As you can see, it is unsorted. Then this is the sorted thing 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 12, 17, 21, 34. This is a very simple and best code for running insertion sort. You can go the long way as well if you're given a supporting pseudocode in your exam. I would like, this is just a suggestion that you go for, if you are dealing with insertion sort, just go for this code. Otherwise, if you want a longer solution, sure, go ahead. Then we have the implementation of abstract data types. So the first thing we have is stack, and well, declaring stack is easy. We don't have stack, we don't have queues or linked list in Python. So what we can do, we can just create a list, a simple list, or an array if you want, and then we can just assume it to be a stack. So every time you declare a stack, you'll just make an array by the name of stack. You'll initialize it according to your range given in the question. Base pointer or end pointer will be 0, top pointer will be -1. You can sometimes normally examiner will just ask for these three variables, otherwise you can make stack full as well to show, or this is basically size in stack to show what is the maximum number of values that can be stored in the stack. Item is none because obviously you'll use that to either input values into the stack or output them. For up, so let's just copy paste it in our over here. Now let's say for a stack operation, the examiner will either ask you to pop a value or push a value. Now a normal way of doing that is just to use the pop function, but obviously examiner will not really let you do that. So it's more or less likely that every time you go for a pop operation, you will be needing to make a function or procedure about it. Follow the guideline. So this is stack. Now def pop stack if base pointer equals to 0. So if okay, one more thing that we can do instead of base pointer and top pointers, because stacks can only push and pop elements in one direction, what we can do is we can simply make things easier and we can just call it as stack pointer, and we can initialize it with a 0. So if stack pointer is equal to 0, then what simply you'll do, you'll print an error, stack is empty, because that means you don't have anything else to pop, there are no more elements. Now if this is not the case and stack pointer is not equal to 0, then what you are going to do, you are going to uh, take one element from stack and then you are going to put it into a variable that you can then return. So for example, something like data equals to stack stack pointer, and once you pop out an element, stack pointer will become minus equal to 1. And now we are just going to return data. Now as you see, stack pointer is at a 0, so if it's the last element it will become stack pointer 0, if it's the fifth element it will be stack pointer 5, and so on. Now let's do one thing. Let's initialize our stack with, let's say, 4 values and then try to run this thing. Okay. Okay. So stack pointer is supposed to be a stack pointer. They are saying, let's say this stack pointer is outside the function. So for this function, stack pointer is a global variable. It is something inside a function cannot directly access a global variable. So what we'll do, we'll just provide it as a parameter to resolve this issue. Now let's see whether it works or not. Oh, I changed the, okay, stack pointer. I need to supply it over here as well. Now, oh yeah, by the way, let's print our result as well. Okay, now it's saying that this is, let me change that a bit, return none, otherwise return data, and I'll just make it into data. Okay, data is not really a global variable, so I'll just make it like this. Oh, okay. Result does not exist anymore. I need to print data. Stack is empty. Okay, none is returned. Stack pointer, okay, that's because stack pointer is currently saying that the value is 0. So if I've added a value 1 2 3 4, so that means I should make it into, this will be 3. This is the 0th position, this is the first, second and third. Now let's see. So 10 is returned. Now after this operation, the value of stack pointer, this value must be written back. Let's see if it is doing that or not. It's remaining at 3. So what we need to do is we need to return data and stack pointer as well. We need to return both values, and over here what we need to do is we need to store them respectively in data and stack pointer. Similarly over here, there you go, this should solve the problem. Now when we pop a value, see, it becomes -1. So the next time I'll run it, it will pop the second value and so on. Now most of the time it will be better if you do it like this. So this will be a better way of doing things. Then you can return the value into stack pointer and data respectively. Then you can pop the data that you just got from the stack, and the new value of stack pointer can be printed as well. Okay, then the next thing we are going to be looking at is a push operation. Normally you can just use the append function to add a value in a stack, but obviously examiner is not going to let you do that. The examiner will give you a something like a 6-mark question in order to write a proper code. So let's write it. We are going to be going ahead with a empty stack, and then we are going to create a code for push operation. So I just created a blank stack. Then this will be okay. Now this is a refined code that we can use. I just have it in my slide, so I'm just going to copy paste it from over here. Now before this I should really input something like enter value to push, and then this value will be stored in data. I'll provide it to the function as a parameter. Now over here I'll need to use global keyword so that this my stack, oh sorry, I just had stack, not my stack. This stack and this stack pointer can be accessed by this function. So the logic is simple. If a stack pointer is equal to 10, you would return false, because that means you have reached the end of your stack, or let's make it 9 in this case, because we are going from 0 and we are heading till 9. Otherwise you'll take whatever data it is, you'll store it at the stack pointer position, and then you'll do stack pointer equals to stack pointer plus 1, or you can simply do plus equal to 1. They are the same thing. Okay, why? Let me just fix that. It is showing this as an error. Okay, this should be fixed. Now in order to test it, we can just call push. Okay, first of all let's print the stack, then let's call push data, let's provide it with a parameter, and then let's print our stack again. Let's say 5, and see, it was none, like all the stack was blank. Now we have one element 5, so our code successfully runs, and we have verified it as well. Okay, so I'm going to keep it till here today. In our next class, inshallah, we'll have a look at queue operation, linked list, and some more. As essentially these three, and then we'll see how far we can go. I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Till then, stay tuned. I hope you were able to understand everything we discussed today. If not, tell it to me in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and do drop some nice comments. I'll see you guys in the next class. Till then, keep practicing. Take care. Allah Hafiz.